That's me.
Test. Okay. And stay closed. Welcome to our budget workshop. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So, as is my tradition, at least as mayor, I kind of always say to the trustees, here's your tentative budget. I worked to get you a verbose version as well and some backup materials that I was using to accomplish it. And then I kind of say, it's your bus to drive from here, essentially. And so, drive on. I mean, I'm willing to go page by page through this, and if you have questions, to jump in. I can take questions first. It's up to you guys how you want to handle it.
Probably a good idea for educational purposes that we can explain. We don't have to go super in depth.
Okay.
Highlights maybe. Kind of then people if they have questions.
Get the coffee ready, everybody, because here we go.
Well, I just think with education, I think.
No, I know. So, just walking through the budget itself here, page by page. The first one you're going to see is tax cap calculations, and we do this every year. I familiarized myself with Scotia's budget today, a little bit tentative budget, and they don't provide this, which I think is a mistake. I think it's good to see year by year the tax increases, how the tax cap worked, and everything else, and that's what you're seeing in that page essentially. To not hit beyond tax cap, we would have had $2.143 million, and it's reflecting the proposed tax levy below that on the right side of $2.211 million, which gets further explained and disseminated on the next page called the Budget Recap 26-27. We have three funds in the Village of Ballston Spa that we utilize. The A fund is our general fund, the G fund is our sewer fund, and the L fund is our library fund. Now, the important thing to understand is that you can move money from the A fund to the G or to the L fund, but you cannot move money easily, at least, from the G or L fund to the A fund or between those funds themselves. They're kind of lock boxes when you get to it. So when you are not sure if you need to put certain money into G or L, you usually avoid doing it. But you also want to make sure that they have a fund balance amongst themselves, too. And we'll talk about that in a second on the next page. But before we get there, the tax increase proposals are on this page in terms of the rate percentage. Now, to be clear, because of the way assessment growth worked this year, and I'm just going to get the exact numbers on my end here when I do this. I did this earlier, and I meant to print it so I'd had it at my disposal. But you always hear about the 2% tax cap situation. Well, in reality, in our village this coming tax year or fiscal year, for Milton it would be only 1.57% at the tax cap, and Ballston 0.89% because of the way the growth factors work and the assessment growth occurred in the village itself. And remember, our assessment is occurring via the town of Ballston and town of Milton assessors. So we look to them, we ask questions of them. They're very responsive to us. We're currently working with them to look at our senior exemptions for future years, our firefighter exemptions, and our veterans exemptions, because we have some pretty out-of-date language in our current code for at least a couple of those, if not all three. And we need to probably do something to match what the county does soon with respect to that, and what the town of Milton does as well, at the very least. So we thank the assessors for their help. They give us these rolls each year, and that's how we derive what this percentage ends up looking like. So instead of 1.57 and 0.89, the proposal here at the tentative budget states 4.61% 3.91%. So the over cap is $64,415. You'll notice later on in this budget, every one of those $64,415 gets assigned in addition to the $40,000 from fiscal year 26 that we went over the tax cap by. We add those two numbers together, and for the year, we'll have $100,000 this year, if we do that, or in fiscal year 27, going into capital planning funding, and the existing $40,000 from this year. It's about $146 is what the total would be to start getting some of the capital planning done, and also to create the more or less gap we need for the additional funding, especially for something as large as the DPW building or buildings, it comes down to, and what debt we'll have to take out related to that, things with this building, the court as well. Fire trucks take care of themselves to a certain degree because of what we've worked out with Town of Milton, Town of Ballston, although we do give our own funding, and we do propose that in this. I'll talk about that in a minute. But more or less, we're just trying to create a nice pad inside of our tax structure so that we have debt payments for all the things we need to take care of with respect to that capital planning. We'll talk maybe some more about that later on if you'd like. So that's what that page denotes. One other thing I'll note to you, sewer fund, we do not utilize taxes for sewer fund. Library fund, we do use village taxes, and there's a small increase there. And I also have put $5,000 of money from the A fund into the L fund this year to help cover their expenses. They provided us for the first time in my time here a robust budget proposal. Went through that. There were a couple of redundancies, a couple of things that wouldn't be necessary, and got them to zero to balance their budget using that $5,000 only and nothing else. So we'll get to that later. Next page looks at the fund balance, and something proud of here in our time, Bernadette and my time, and then Mary on top of that. You can see back in 21, the total fund balance between all three funds was $2.675 million, but you'll notice the library was in a deficit and sewer fund was only at $88,000. Over these last 5 fiscal years total, you can see the growth going upward, and now we're at a total of official total actualized from May 2025 of $6.075 million total, $5.6 million of that in the general fund. We're projecting even growing a little bit further than that for the end of this fiscal year, unless something drastic happens. So about $5.68 million, but looking at the library fund, getting them to $188,000, if we can get there, is something we're proud of. The library board and us, we should be proud of that, because obviously they've got very thin margins there. We've been able to work with them to make that happen. And the sewer fund at $369 is important too. That's a fund that, you never know when something's going to go wrong on the sewer end of the system, so having that there is helpful. Not going to bore you with the rest of that page. Let's jump into budget summary. And you'll see that basically you've got 1,000 level and 2,000 or 3,000 level, 5,000 level. They all have a certain similarity or categorization that the state uses. So that's what you've got to look at, or why these exist in the chunks they do. I think general government support is what the 1,000s are, and so we'll go through those briefly. I'm sorry to tell you, I did not propose a raise for all of you.
Good.
I again, looking at other villages sometimes, Scotia's at 7,000 for trustees and 15,000 for mayor. So we are definitely below some of our localities in that respect. But you'll see CE there. CE stands for contractual. PS stands for personal services, or essentially payroll related to those lines. In this case, you've got NICOM funding and a potential newsletter or mailer for the village or the trustees to do, and other educational expenses that come along. Small boost in there to $6,250 from $6,000 because of inflation. Justices, you'll see growth of about 3.8% in the PS line there. This is because Mike Morrissey and I had worked over the years to step up in a gradual basis the court clerks' pay per hour to get them into a more respectable fashion based on the work level that they're doing. And so that goes from $21 to $22 an hour, and that's why you'll see the increase there. A small increase in their supplies, in internet, phone, etc. as well. Mayor, no increase in my pay either, so don't worry. Inside this is the labor attorney in the CE. This is the way Christine had it back when. I kept it this way all these years, I guess, to help us ascertain where the labor attorney numbers are, and also usually a $5,000 mayor's discretionary funding for things that come up throughout the year, and usually stay under that, but we do keep that $5,000 there just in case.
Yeah, has labor relations attorney kind of stayed steady costs, or?
It's gone up like everything else has, but in a fair fashion. Elaine does a good job for us, and during times like these, it may be a little more expensive with respect to police negotiations going on right now. It's viewed as a retainer, so if you exceed the retainer, you start paying more. But Elaine and her staff do a great job, and appreciate them. Then village administrator. Jen gets 2.5%, but also this is her first year of longevity. She gets 5 years. Happy anniversary to Jen coming up this next year. So she's kind of the longest person in this office besides Bob Kavanaugh, realistically. So we appreciate her. And she gets a little bit of a budget for her own supplies, signs that she has to do every so often, etc. And again, a small boost of $1,500.
Like the village wayfinding signs?
Those are in a different category.
What signs are
Things like when we do the park signs and stuff like that type of stuff, we usually will take it out of hers. It's kind of just a miscellaneous thing. If she has some supplies she has to get through Amazon, that stuff. Treasurer and village clerk I'm going to look at together, and you can see up on one, down on the other. The hope was to go down on both, or at least exceed the amounts, the percentage-wise, but unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond my control, there's the need really for an additional 20 hours a week, essentially, for a village deputy clerk. So we're giving Rebecca and Melissa more or less the option here of how they want to handle the 50 hours. Do you want a 30-hour or something slightly close to 30-hour deputy treasurer and 20-hour deputy clerk? Do you want to have both of them be deputy clerk, deputy treasurers? You can have it unlimited, but that may not be the best way to do it. So we're trying to see what we get in the door in terms of resumes and evaluating that. I know they got a couple interviews coming up for at least deputy treasurer, it looks like, in the next couple of days, or next couple of business days. So we'll see where that goes ultimately.
Could you explain a bit more
Sure.
the need for that extra?
You're talking about the second position, essentially, because what was factored in was what our previous, we had filled it with Lawrence back when, the deputy clerk, deputy treasurer role. That was the 30-hour version back when. We were looking to maintain that, and until the last minute I was going to, and then we had a flood of FOIL requests come in, and that's just got to be handled. Unfortunately, no matter how extraneous you feel certain things are in that respect, or if no documents exist, you still have to run the searches, you still have to do the diligence, you still have to make the responses. If appeals come in, they help manage the appeal process with us, and the attorney also charges extra for certain aspects of that if we need that. So you'll see attorney is up for various reasons, and you'll see that that position is necessary as well to assist here. We were trying to eliminate a full-time role up here when Terry had retired, because the idea is to try to send a full-time role downstairs to the building inspector. Talk more about that in a minute. But because of all this, I'm delaying the full-time building inspector to January 1st to sort of not go over tax cap for the base operational funding, and taking on the $25,000 essentially for this other role that we're talking about. Does that help? No problem. Also though, in treasurer, you'll see, our audit, our accountant, we're getting Melissa a laptop because she does do some weekend work as well for us. So forcing her to come in to do all that all the time is not fair. And laptops these days, you know, $500, $600 gets you a decent model with Jeff's help and our IT folks at Q Networks. Software as well, AccuFund. So a little bit of a boost there, but overall, payroll system has been working pretty well. The new payroll system, which was a basic savings for us over time, so we appreciate that, and we're just trying to make sure that we're properly funding the treasurer line, and we may need to also get some extra desks slash, you know, hardware in here to suit this many bodies, because there will be some overlap. When you look at 50 total hours, there has to be overlap with respect to part-timers in that respect. So make sure we've got enough room here for everybody and enough terminals to go with it. So also, we may have a little bit of extra assistance for taxes for summer intern. We're trying to beg Mariah to come back, but I think we scared her away. But we're working on that as well to make that happen for a couple of months when taxes and water and sewer are all going out and coming in. Yeah, it's all simultaneous in the summer. It can be hellacious, so getting just a light-houred intern to assist with that process as well. So let's see here. We've got attorney next. As I said, I was trying to lower attorney for the idea of not having as much zoning code work to be done by June 1st, hopefully. So I was taking that down a little bit, and then unfortunately, again, I raised that by $15,000 above what my intention was originally because of the lawsuit situation and also some of the FOIL work that has to be done by the attorney as well with respect to it. So it's another reality. It is what it is, I guess, to this degree, and we just have to grin and bear it to a certain degree too, because you can't control others. Engineering. There's kind of a fallacy going on in engineering from this year I want to point out. This year, because of the BOA situation and also because of Water District number 3 work being done at the Rollins Street pump station to improve that for Milltown Center, you're seeing a bunch of engineering that doesn't necessarily belong there as just a standalone number. What we do is, obviously, when we receive money back for BOA from the state, it goes into our revenues. And so there's an offset going in our revenues. We just put in another application for that as well for our 4th payment, I believe. And I think the 3rd payment may not have even reached here by January 31st. So you're not seeing all that. Also, the Water District number 3 materials should be going into capital planning at a certain point, because that it all gets associated to that and will eventually be paid back by the town of Milton Water District users in District 3. So we will be reimbursed for that. So engineering is still probably exceeding that 60,000 number this year. So pushing it over to 80,000, especially with some of the work that we know we need to do related to this building, with related to DPW, et cetera. So just being cognizant of that and making sure we're covered better with our engineering numbers here, and that's why it's put up to 80,000. I took a look at the amount of spending we've done with Labella in the 4 years that we've been here. It's astronomical. Yeah, I mean, congratulations to them, and yet, you know, we appreciate their work and we continue with them. Municipal building, you'll see that there's a $35,000 rollover going on for the infill, the vault, and the retaining wall. Still trying to get that work scheduled up and done. So hopefully the concept will be uncapping the top of the wall, working on the facade of it, recapping that wall, and then also separately doing the vault infill so that there's no collapse threat outside over there.
Does that go to bid?
If it's 35,000 or under, no. So that's the hope here for that level of work. We'll see where we go with that. Also, regular operations of the building are in there for $15,000. Kept consistent because thanks to Melissa getting an electricity competitive bid or provider in for us essentially puts us either at or below what our electricity cost through grid directly was, I believe.
Right, we were like 27 cents per kilowatt, and now it's like 11.
Yeah, I think it was at 13 before the jump, and then we're going back below the pre-jump amount and then some as well. So, yep, let's hope that it does result in some level of savings at some point, but we're going to have to see it for ourselves for a little bit before we can 100% determine what the net effect is. We think we know, but again, there may be a couple differences in the way that that gets served. We also do cover 30 Bath Street because we still operate out of there for court and the regular operations of the building, phone, internet, electricity, and obviously with the new judge, I'm putting a little bit extra in there because she may have some materials or software, et cetera. She may want, that could have gone either in Justice's CE or there. So just trying to be cognizant of, when there's change going on, there may be some additional things needed in that building. Central garage, don't ask me why this goes in the 1000s. It belongs obviously with DPW, but it is in here. The personal services for any DPW type category or water type category is split up in a way that we try to attribute to different sections within A and also to G as well for sewer. And I think I provided you all what that breakdown looks like of the percentages. Changed that a little bit this year because of the changes in the water department, getting a little heavier again, and but not astronomically. But you can see there that that's what the changes are. That's all contract based with respect to DPW's Teamsters contract, is trying to estimate what overtime looks like for each employee because of obviously snow season being the worst part of it and other things they have to come in for. They have 3-hour minimums on overtime when they come in on a weekend, for instance. So you've got to be cognizant of that when you do this. I had the breakdown you saw of the central garage contractual inside the backup, and each category says a seat attached sheet based on that. If there's something specific you want to look at with respect to that, let me know, but I'll just keep going unless you tell me otherwise on those. We're estimating our Marshall and Sterling insurance premium, and we split it 3 ways between A, G, and L. So there's the share for A that we believe is coming in based on what guidance they did give us. Municipal associations dues, pretty self-explanatory. Judgments and claims, we have perennially put $5,000 in there in case. Some years we've used it, some years we have not. Purchase of land right of way, don't foresee any. Taxes on village, comes with the territory of owning land in other communities. And contingency has been consistent at $100,000 for a while. So that's the 1000s. Any questions on the 1000s before I go to the 3000s?
Not at the second. I imagine if we have one.
No, I'm sorry. Once we're not just kidding. No, I absolutely can go back, but I just want to make sure. Because I know this is going to be dreadfully boring for most people out there at this point. Public safety includes our police, our fire, and our fire, police, and safety inspections as well. For police, we're being careful here, obviously, because we are in the middle of contract negotiations continuing, and we have some things coming up soon that will hopefully give us better direction about where this is going, but also understanding that generally we go upward. We did push over $35,000 from this year because of the idea that we thought we'd have higher wages to pay out this year. We did not. What did end up happening was we had 2 policemen out on leave because of getting injured, 1 full-timer. And the way it works is we have to pay for somebody to work those hours or potentially overtime related to that, and the disability share for the officer who was hurt during their leave time, and then we get reimbursed later for that. So we're showing the expense, and then we wait for the revenue side of it, and we have not gotten all of that, I don't believe, yet back from the state.
How long does it take? Sometimes?
Months.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
we've only gotten like 20,000 back.
And it was about 60-ish, 50 to 60, I think.
Something like that.
It was a while. And that officer has retired at this point, but still, it created a little bit of an oddity in 2 ways. Like I said, more overtime than we really wanted to have, and also the disability share showing up in that. So it looks like we were running very, very hot as of January 31st in the PS there. The reason is because of those 2 things going on simultaneously inside there. And that's an unusual situation, my 4 years being here. Looks like the building's pretty good. Some of you at least saw how the garage looks and everything else the other day. 78 Thompson Street's a good place for them. They're happy there from what I understand. CE goes down because we are removing the speed signs. We are not going to buy any more speed signs until we see what the grant for the pedestrian safety, et cetera, says. And we're just finishing up with them the proposal on that. Paul and I are working with them on that, and sent back positive comments on the latest version of what is their RF whatever for the engineering firms to bid on doing the work. We did put back in $7,500 and rolled that from this year for the actual match on the grant that we're responsible for, was $7,500. We had thought it was $10,000 last year, but ended up being $7,500 in the end, so that's why that level. And uniforms at $15,000 is kind of the amount that we've done for a while. Last couple of years have been pretty good on it. When I first got in here, it was a little higher than that, so maybe in the future we can lower it, we'll see. Also will depend on the contract, because that's a uniform allowance that occurs as well, so we have to be careful about that.
It also depends on how many full-time police officers you have versus part-time.
Good point there. Yep, very much so. Okay, fire. So fire chiefs, EML union, there's one thing that's going to need to change. So the excess that may go into capital reserve is located in fire chiefs EQ. That amount is related to the idea that they may have excess at the end of the fiscal year to go into capital reserve for trucks. We don't know if they will. We don't know how much, because things happen throughout the year. That number will have to change, though, because we did get a revised schedule, amortization schedule related to the pumper truck that came in. We are closing that loan literally Monday or Tuesday, I think, both loans. So we're going to get our $2 million worth of money from USDA coming in, $2.177 million, I think it is, total we'll be getting from USDA, including $135,000 in grant money.
So they'll be revised in the budget.
There will be a revision on the final budget based on the actual amortization table, and it will just offset. So debt will change in terms of the interest number in the debt for the first payment, and then I'll offset it by EQ. When Kevin Crowe and I work on this and make sure that we know, I just gave him the revised amortization schedule, so he understood it. He was all fine with it, so he gets where we're going with that. And we appreciate his verbose budget that he provides, as you saw in the materials as well, very well articulated by him. And we appreciate the hard work that goes into that. It talks about the vehicles and the future vehicles that they think they'll need, or apparatus. The one thing that did happen here, the village was scheduled to give toward buildings. Remember, building money cannot be from the town's money. Okay, that's for us to handle. And the new policy that we've enunciated with respect to when the towns were figuring out what they were going to give us, we went on the record to say last year we'd give $105,000 to them, or this current one we're sitting in, and if they didn't use it, they could keep it and put it into truck reserve as well. So if they managed building improvements well, they would be able to. This year, they've got two legacy things that kind of got put off because of that apron cost that was going on in front of Union, and that thing went way over budget for reasons that I still can't fully understand, but Labella, I'll trust them on that one. But the facade is falling down on Union, and this has been going on for a while, and there's a roof need for EML. So instead of the $110,250 they were scheduled to get on a 5% increase this year, we're instead for 1 year going above that, and I've made that clear that this is a one-time scenario, $135,000 instead of the $110,250. So basically about a $25,000 overage. But again, that could not be paid for out of the town's funds, and so that's why we're being careful there with respect to that. Again, anything else, you'll need to look at Kevin's breakdown on that. If you have any direct questions, even after this, he said he's happy to answer anything you have. Call him up. He'll talk with you through any of the questions you might have with respect to that. Safety inspections includes building inspector, for instance. And again, the start date for a full-time building inspector / any other roles we may apply to excess hours for them is 1/1/2027. But in the meantime, also have accounted for keeping Dave LaFountain around because we want him to transition that position and stick around if he wants to. He doesn't cost the village that much, and the 8 hours a week he's basically here. So as long as he wants to stick around, we appreciate him and all the years he's put in with us. He just has shown no desire to be a full-timer down the line, so we kind of have to, figure out the best way to manage that. And also, we've been asked for years to get Kathy Barner to a much more respectful level based on the work she's doing to make that office run, period. And so we pushed her up to $25 an hour after holding off and trying to, not go there. We're at a point where, especially with the new building inspector coming in, she's going to be even more important at that point. So that's why we went in that direction. And everybody in the officer's office agrees wholeheartedly with respect to what she does and handles down there. So we appreciate Kathy a lot. Go ahead.
The 88,000 figure is for all of that?
It is for all that, for safety inspections, for inventory control, I believe, as well as in there. So it's all in that payroll sheet, basically, in that 3620 line. And again, supplies and software for downstairs, we were at $6,000. We have not pursued Municity software yet because the cost was a little bit extreme for what we might get from it. We may revisit that in a future budget if there's going to be more usage ability with respect to it. We kind of are riding the town's abilities right now, but eventually we have to roll off that. Supervisor of Highway, you'll see the split there, but there's nothing in terms of C or EQ. This is the 5,000s now with respect to transportation. Street maintenance, this is always a very convoluted scenario. I want to go to my sheet just so I'm not speaking out of turn here. Okay, the village share for paving that I had budgeted in this, we have a total in that line of $266,000, yes, and of that, $140,000 includes village paving. A pickup truck first payment is $20,000, a leaf box $12,000, which was requested. Roof repair, $5,000 for one of their sub-buildings. Paint and signs, $12,000, and miscellaneous lumber, et cetera, for $1,000. That is $190,000, that goes into $190,000 of just the 400 line. We split up their lines a lot more carefully. You don't see it on the budget because we're not responsible to do that, but we do ask the departments to do that. So when you look at the breakdown, the further breakdown, you're seeing 401, 402, 403. When you see it budgeted, though, in the main budget, that's all compiled into 400 lines unless otherwise specified. Fuel, we've put up to $40,000 because of the impending problems we're noticing. And I think we just had a fill-up, I was told, of the back truck of diesel. $476 of diesel fuel on a fill-up on that. So it tells you right there that fuel is going to be a problem here if we stay at these levels, but let's hope that it comes back down soon. The flip side is it helps the sales tax figures for the county, so there is an offset a little bit, but not necessarily enough to offset all this. Otherwise, we kept numbers pretty consistent to what the actuals have looked like in each line, and that's how we're at $266,000 on that line. 140 is aggressive, but also is representative of the fact that there are energy components inside of asphalt, and so the cost of asphalt may be rising too this year is what we've been advised. We've not seen an instantaneous jump in that, but they reprice it month to month, so we may be seeing one coming soon. Chips, we don't know what CHIPS number is each year when we do this because, oh gosh, the budget in the state is late. Who knew? I blame Bernadette personally for that.
We weren't good again.
No, but we use the previous year's figure, but the reason why it doesn't matter in reality is because we use we use the expense line and then just reflect the same number in the revenue line for chips. If it went up to $400,000, it would offset the $400,000 on both sides of that. So it's a nullity. We show it because it's money in, money out. That will take some time to handle because we spend it and then we file for the reimbursement at that point. Brush and Weeds includes a $41,360 tree grant. Liz helped get that tree grant. I'm going to give Liz a prop today. If I'm, nothing else, fair, okay? But we appreciate her work on that, and that's reflected in there as well. So we're getting aggressive on the tree work we're doing inside that zone that's allowed. And also we're continuing to do our work with respect to street trees along especially Route 50 and replacing those and sidewalks that go with them that have heaved as a result of the wrong trees. You may have noticed it's a little barren around O'Brien's with those trees out now, but that was a request because it was actually taking out some of the building too with the growth of those trees. So we appreciate the fact that our Park and Tree Board have found narrower trees to deal with here. Snow removal. Again, attached sheet, I'll tell you that salt stayed consistent around 55,000, I think, give or take 52.5, I think it was that I had, and then a piece of equipment for salt spreading, I believe, is in there as well. So just trying to be cognizant of the harsh winters we've had the last 2 years. Lighting, upped it slightly just as a cautious effect. It seems like we missed a little bit high, or we were low, the number was high this year if the numbers were correct in terms of ratio. So trying to push it back to 75,000 here at that point. Sidewalks, we had $130,000 of rolled over money we're going to do because we're still utilizing some of the sidewalk funds from this fiscal year now until June 1st, some of which is coming for the Milton Ave work being done, and others may come in for reimbursements in the meantime. This does not include the CHPE money of $80,000, which was recently received, and the Tonko money of $250,000 that we will probably be hearing in the next month and a half or so, they told me, from the CDBG folks for that funding. So when you take all those totals together and include the $40,000 additional new funding and $130,000 rollover, that's $500,000 for sidewalks we'll have available to use. $80,000 is earmarked for High Street, East High specifically, and Hyde Boulevard because of the problems that were created on those streets by CHPE. The likelihood I'm going to propose to you is the $250,000 be used on a needs-based system that we'll devise, because I believe the government's going to probably prefer to see that as the approach ultimately. But we'll once we get the full instruction sheet on that one, we
have guidance from them.
Yep, we have yet to get the new guidance. They told me look at the 24 guidance. I have not had a chance to sit down with that thick document, but that's also not going to be the controlling document. They said that it should be coming in the next month and a half.
Okay.
So, but the long story short is to have $500,000 at our disposal for sidewalks does help us with respect to the capital plan aspect that we'll maybe get to, like I said, a little bit later. Captain, $8,000 is there on that line, and that's stayed that way. Never really have had requests for additional from them, so we're just rolling with it. Here's where the welcome bee spot signs are, and then $14,000 for BSBPA and publicity. So that's economic assistance and opportunity publicity. Staying at the same amount. Belmont and Saratoga goes on for one more year. That's why we gave them a little bit of excess over the last couple of years. And so I asked John Shea of the BSBPA to keep promoting hard for that weekend to the degree they can. They've been trying some different ideas to parlay that, because after the first year they were a little disappointed in the results in the village. I think last year felt better, but this year let's knock it out of the park in the final year of this approach. Fund for the Arts CE, we got an interesting problem that did arise. I found out that only $1,500 of the grant got put in for the concert series, which means that they're $1,000 short now. So I'm going to revisit that issue in the final budget with all of you, if that's okay, to either just take out a fund balance for $1,000, or we'll figure out where to find $1,000 elsewhere in the budget at this point. So
So I assume she got a full.
She got a hold of Jen. She wanted a meeting. I read between the lines of probably what was going on. That's why I wanted to know what the answer was today, and know what to tell you. And so now that I knew that, I'm able to say to you, I don't know where we'll find it. It's $1,000. We'll find it. Okay.
We met last night.
Yep.
So what happened? Did they not get full funding from us?
They didn't.
Central
No,
grant?
they're about $1,400 short.
Okay.
Well, they were going for 25. She says they got 15. So why don't you give me the
Yeah, I really
final figure on that, and I'll know what I need to work to find.
These are up 13.
Let me know for sure.
Yeah.
So that's forthcoming along with the amortization change at the very least in the final budget if we go to that point. Let's see here. Otherwise, we did roll over $4,250 for things like art fair that George is really hepped up on right now and is working hard to get off the ground. And so redundancies that they didn't get to this year that they want to do next year, that's how we arrived at that. Parks, mowing contract gets split between the two types of parks here. We've got a garden club getting $1,000. You've got benches being requested in Wiswall Park and some other beautification needs in there. We try to play fair between the two park lines. Wiswall, obviously, and Iron Spring are not the same level of real estate as Kelly Park, though, and so that's why we kind of balance them the way we do, is those two and then the one with playground recreation. We are also, like I said, will be in possession of, if we go this route, $146,000 of funding and capital planning, so we can blend here a little bit of some of the capital planning ideas with respect to Iron Spring Park, especially this year, and maybe pickleball painting the courts, which I know Scott's getting pricing on next week to see just what the damage would be to paint those courts and get them into better conditioning. But the long story short here is $70,000 between the three parks is not as much as it sounds like. There's a lot of stuff still to be done, and that will be done in those parks, especially with the maintenance of things there. And for those wondering what the payroll line is there, that is especially for bathroom cleaning for Kelly Park. And so Carmen Isabella is coming back, I believe, again this year to do that work for us, and we try to make sure that we have enough in there. Last year, I think it was a little light on it, so making sure we have a little bit more this year. We have changed the naming because of some issues that arose this fiscal year, that people felt that there was an automatic requirement to pay out money without contracts and whatnot, and that's not the way it's supposed to work. So we are returning to the state-specified names for these categories of specific recreation programs. That is $17,000 for youth programming. If BACC shows a need for that level of funding, that's what it's there for, but there could be others out there that could apply for it as well, technically. So we are not specifying directly that that's BACC's money in this. Same thing, joint recreation programs. We did get a pretty good breakdown from Nora on BARC. So for joint recreation programming, there's $12,100 there, and I would suggest that we probably do the contract for the $12,100 for BARC, but that'll be a board decision at the appropriate time. I want to be clear on that because of what happened this past year with some of the stuff going on in these lines. Special recreational facilities is our swimming pool, a really long way of saying that. We're trying to be a little more cautious with the PS line here and also getting them away from minimum wage, which keeps happening every year in terms of the increases, and trying to be competitive or semi-competitive with pools like Malta's pool as well. So $73,000 in there is an increase, but one that's probably necessary based on what we spent this past year. We are rolling over the $37,500 for resurfacing money that we are building up. We're hoping Jim Tedisco is working on getting us the $100,000 possibly for an additional amount for that. And based on current pricing, $125,000 to $150,000 is probably the price for a medium grade remarcaciting of the pool floor. So that would put us right where we would need to be if that does happen. So right now we'll have $50,000, and we're going to try to do some additional patchwork this year that might eat into a little bit of that. But to resurface the entire thing obviously is a much bigger endeavor. Also electricity, phone, internet, and other requests from kick artists that you saw in your backup materials probably. We have $23,000 there for. There's a drop off this year because we replaced the pool filter this current budget year, so that is done, thankfully. So it was one of the two major things is rectified there. Historian, we put $2,750 aside for Brookside and $2,750 aside for the Ballston Museum. Again, it's all contract based, so they've got to still submit the contracts for that to happen, but we try not to play favorites unless there's a need 1 year for that. Celebrations is down from the $40,200 to $40,000 this year. Family Fun Day dropped by $1,000. We have other events, 9/11 because of the anniversary got a little bit more in the request. We do keep in here Swinging Under the Stars, which is not us putting on in terms of task force and mayor oversight type stuff. So Swimming on the Stars, the banners, flags, holiday decorations. After prom party, we kept in there. Betsy sent me an email last week asking, very nicely for the $1,000. I'm like, it's already in there, so no, not to worry. We cover a number of events and a number of things related to celebrations in that number of $40,000. And adult recreation, again, this is not going to be named, but it's $12,500 for seniors recreation. If Ballston area seniors perhaps were to want $12,500, they could get a contract with us and just show us a little bit of background of why they deserve the $12,500.
Will this be communicated to these groups?
I think Mary does a great communication job on that one, so if you could communicate that, and if they want to have, Earl, is
Can
it?
we have something a little more formalized, just so people don't say I didn't receive this information?
You know what, I didn't see that one, so maybe it did reach us, but
I did reach out to her
Like-
and he said he was taking care of it.
I'll look back, but either way, we'll make sure we have something from them
I'm
to
just thinking
document it. Yeah, get it.
BACC as well, just so that there's some.
100%. Yep. Okay, that is the 7,000s, which was culture and recreation. Let's go to the 8,000s now. We're almost in the home stretch here. Zoning and planning, PS was just normal increases. Zoning CE and planning CE, you'll see general support for any engineering work they may have separate that doesn't get reimbursed for some reason. Their notices and other unreimbursed expenses. We added $5,000 extra in zoning for Fisher, possibly for work that they still have to finish up with us right in the next months. Folks? Storm sewers were moved into A from G because they didn't belong in G for those years, and we did make the changes in the water and sewer rates accordingly this past year, I should say. But the request is for $20,000 for storm sewer structures and other pieces. Again, there's an attached sheet that breaks it down a little bit, maybe not much beyond that if I remember. Street cleaning is street brooms and the PS related to that work as well. So you see that there for the $1,500. Water transportation, let's go a little bit deeper into that one, which is $83.40. Let's take a dive in the water. Here we go. First off, the EQ is $125,000. We had originally last year being fiscal year 25, we thought we were going to be doing the generator work for about $99,000 back then, and we had the $100,000 set aside for generator and wells 4A and 4B. Then we ended up with bids that were $170,000 plus, and we recognized that something was wrong, so we didn't end up doing the work. And we've kind of been looking into Labella to say, what are we going to do about this? And so we're going to get this finished. We're going back into the fund balance to grab the $100,000 that we had not utilized and an additional $25,000 because we think that the number is probably going to land somewhere closer to $125 now if we make the changes to the bids or the bid packet that we feel. Labella tried to give us some bells and whistles we didn't really ask for in this process in the bidding. And so now we have to go rebid it essentially with a revised package. So this was not the best moment in that relationship, but obviously things happen sometimes. But we also do ask them for some give backs on that type of situation. So we work with them on that. Worked hard here to balance what the realities of running a water system are going to look like this year over and above all that, and looked at this year's actuals. There's some things, I'll read you off the note for people to understand. In 404, which is put at $20,000, that is roof work on the Rollins Street station that we have some roof work needed there. Also, 400 includes part of the hydraulic model support, $20,000 there, $10,000 goes to the G fund on that as well, because the hydraulic model works in both ways when you think about it for sewer as well. Hydrants, $16,000, they cost about $4,000 each to replace. Valves, $2,000, alarm upgrade, $2,000. The Kester fees that we pay each year, $7,000. A hydrant steamer for $1,500. Normal operations and chemicals are the remainder of the $140,000 that didn't get covered there. 405 includes meters, that is supplies meters, barricade arms, fluoride pumps, 2 of them, and safety equipment, and that totals up to $9,000. And then there's miscellaneous other things and utilities. Again, I went slightly higher than what I assume the final figure will look like here. So at $97,500 is what the utilities are marked at there. We had some problems in prior years where the splits weren't necessarily done. Like in 26, we haven't split out the utilities from the main 400 line. So that's why it may look a little heavy on the breakdown on one of the lines, but completely zero on the other line. So I kind of did the rough math there to make sure we got that corrected. So in 25, we spent a total of $246,000 between the 400 and 401 lines. And here this year, I've got us at $237,500 because there were some special items in 25 that won't be repeating this year. So all told, $275,000 for water transport CE and the $125,000 for the EQ for the generator. Beautification, adopt a plot, $6,500, and Friends of the Cateros, $1,000. So staying stable on that. In addition, in the DPW lines and payroll, although that probably should be moved, I put it there as a placeholder. We have a water PS that's running through there as well, so be aware of that addition in the DPW payroll chunk that you'll see in the payroll sheets. But again, that can be moved ultimately. I might move that in the final one. I just have to, it requires recoding because if you add a new line that didn't exist in payroll, it now has to get coded into about 3 different locations in the payroll sheet. So when I get a few minutes, I'll work on doing that for the final budget, so that's not in the wrong spot. Benefits. We are opting here this year to use the amortization offer for the fire and police retirement benefits because they now allow, when there are higher increases than expected, an amortization approach over 10 years at a reasonable interest rate. So instead of getting absolutely walloped, we're going to opt into that this year. The difference for state retirement for other employees was minimal, so there was no real need to go through that. But we're going to opt for the early payment and utilization of the amortization for fire and police retirement. That's why the number actually goes down a little bit, believe it or not, in that respect. Social Security is the 7.65% of payroll. One of the things I got to make sure I code it correctly for that reason, make sure it gets included right. Workers' comp is based on an actual estimate from the county. And it's split in the 3 different departments as well. I should say the state retirement is split between A, G, and L. Fire and police is not, it's just A for that retirement. Social Security is based on the payroll in A, G, or L. Workers' comp is split between A, G, and L. Unemployment insurance, disability insurance, same thing. Those are estimates though. Medical insurance is split between A, G, and L. Other EB, which is our retirement insurance benefits, are in A and L, but not G. So you can see there that, again, we're not immune to increases, and we are estimating what the increase for Teamsters is based on guidance we received from the Teamsters for the health plan, and also for our retirees not yet 65 plan, which is not Teamsters. They can't be on Teamsters by rule. They have to be active employees. We've had some retirements going on, and things could be affected in that. I will keep you posted on how it does affect things, but trying to be reasonable with the expectations on these numbers, and that's why it's up more or less 10% on the conventional plan, and more or less a little. We've had some people move from conventional or under 65 retirement to conventional retirement plan, which is a lot less, the Medicare plan. So it caused some differences in these numbers as well. Debt service is all based on the amortization page, but we got it right this time insofar as the state got on us last year for not splitting out conventional debt service, principal and interest, and what they call installment purchase debt, principal and interest. You lived that one with me as we went back and forth with them. We got it ironed out last year, and this year LGSS has helped us. LGS, right?
LGSS.
Has helped us with respect to getting it right here this time around and splitting it out. The ban you're seeing there is for the water tower. We are discussing the best method based on some delay on the exterior work and everything else on what to renew our ban, what level of money for this next year, and then most likely in the following budget year we'll take that out with a conventional long-term debt instrument for the entirety of the $1+ million, or probably $1 million we'll put into that debt when we get to it. So we've been working with Fiscal Advisors LLC. They've been great with us, and that's the guidance they were giving us last week, even just to make sure we were doing the right thing. You can see budget provisions for other uses. Water towers, the $85,000 there, which again I'm requesting increase in water and sewer of 4.5%, which is actually less than what we anticipated asking for based on the old chart that we're working off of. If Milltown Center does start building and goes online here in the next year, or it gets on the precipice of it, we may have no increase next year because of the increase in revenues that may be possible from that. For now, we can't budget on a possibility of something, so until we see a lot of movement up there and finalization and all the work done on our pump station, requesting the 4.5%. We assume 3.25% is inflation, so it's a 1.25% extra for reserve purposes, and that takes us up to $85,000 ultimately to be put away. And I will make a recommendation to the board to move $60,000 for this current fiscal year we're sitting in for water reserves for that same reason. You'll see transfer to library fund. I explained that $5,000 earlier to help them cover their needs. And then capital planning funding, you'll see the $40,000 and change from this year in the adopted budget. I'll make this similar recommendation to basically earmark those $40,000 for capital planning purposes, and then that $40,000 plus the additional $64,000+ is $105,000 for this year. So it accumulates each year that we do this. We're tracking what we're going over tax cap or what we're earmarking specifically as that capital cushion. And that's why it's $105,000 next year by using the $60,000 over tax cap or $64,000 over tax cap. All told, that's $146,000 that will be set aside for first phases of capital planning money that's needed, aside from things like the fire trucks or something like that, which are covered by the contracts. That's the expenses in A. There's a pretty simple rundown of the revenues. If you have a specific question on the revenue side, let me know what it is. I tried to give the board a pretty good insight as to each line and what it refers to, or why the number was chosen. Obviously, the taxes are from the front sheets, but we're trying to be somewhat conservative still on sales tax because we don't know what the economy is going to bring here this next year, so we don't want to overestimate there. Mortgage, the figures have been low again, unfortunately. For the county, so we're hoping that turns around, but I've lowered expectations there. When the money comes in for USDA, $2 million getting interest suddenly, because we do get to achieve interest on that money in the bank, that will turn around interest for us even if interest rates go lower. So that's an improvement we hope to have. Melissa's directive will be essentially put in the highest yielding account we have, and we'll hopefully get a better interest scenario going there. Water, you can see the increases, but again, we're setting aside pieces of that for the purpose of the water tower planning. And Ballston Milton's contract, you can see there is a chunk, $852,590 for fire, which is the renegotiated rate. You can see CHIPS there, as I said, the offset. You can see the total things that I talked about rolling over throughout the budget discussion. There's $352,500 there. And if all else were to fail and we needed to find that $1,300 or whatever it is for the arts committee, then I would just increase that by the $1,000 or $1,300 to offset that. There's that. G, very briefly, you're going to see the share of insurance, taxes on village, and a separate sewer contingency, a little bit lower because we do assign value for the USDA payments to the sewer fund. I think it's 20% of the $1.1 million. It goes there, so the payments, 20% of the principal and interest gets applied to sewer now, so there's a little bit less excess in there. For sanitary sewers, you can see a chunk of the personal services and also some of the expenses that were requested on the attached sheet. Storm sewers, again, moved to A funds, so eventually that will disappear entirely from G once those 2 old years fall off. There's the share of state retirement. There is no fire, police, probably could get rid of that line. Social Security, FICA, basically, workers' comp, unemployment insurance, disability insurance, and medical insurance portions there as well. And then again, on the amortization table, you'll see chunks for G fund paying principal and interest on loans. And that's all there. Library, essentially, I took their request sheet. I took their shares of things that they don't necessarily account for, like insurance and their retirement funding and all the insurances and all that stuff. And their payroll, and basically mash it together to figure out, did their budget, meet what was left, and basically it was right there minus the $5,000. And so we're supporting again with $5,000, and I'm going to be having a conversation soon with them, as Mary I think knows, just about what are their remaining capital needs, because we have spent some money toward them with the asbestos work that was done in the roof ceiling area, and obviously they still have to do the roof and some other things, and they still need some support with respect to matches for future levels of funding. Ladies, if you don't mind. I think that's pretty much it. I'm not going to take you through the minutia of payroll and all that stuff unless you got a specific question. Sorry if that was boring.
No. I think it's important for us and for everybody to kind of be walked through that. So they
No problem.
talk a lot.
Liz is going to put that through AI and tell me that 90% of this meeting was me.
But it'd be nice that for him to talk. It doesn't happen usually tell you, all right, Rob. So I think some of the public, so we have this capital plan and anticipated increases to taxes, we're going over the cap to achieve that. Have you thought of a maybe more, what's the word I'm looking for, like a moderate sort of, instead of doing all of it, could you possibly have you thought of ways to maybe prioritize X over this and just?
The problem is that the biggest priority is the DPW buildings, and the most immediate situation that we're literally working right now with Malta to figure out how we'll get the official approval for utilizing the Malta Ave property for a cold storage building approach.
They're working on it?
They are working on it. Steve Gottman and Carla are in communication right now. Roger Crandall is in constant communication with Scott Kearns about, hey, because one of the things that we proposed was letting them use that site for placing some of their dirt that they need in that zone. By moving the dirt that they have at their facility in Malta, they'll be able to build a salt shed for themselves in Malta that they don't currently have. And so Roger and Brian, who probably will be the person that takes his place down the line, are all about the idea of doing this. They're like, are we done yet? Are we ready? We're ready to move the stuff. So they're very happy with the idea, and they're conveying that to Cynthia Young and their board, Supervisor Young and her board as well. But again, there's a certain matter of right that we have for doing a government use on property outside the village in New York State courts. We don't want to go the Article 78 route with a municipality. There makes no sense doing that. So the idea is, okay, tell us what restrictions you want, like no lift in there, because that can be the most environmentally, problematic situation you'll see in DPW garages is the lift and what falls through in the lift. So, do you not want a cell phone tower there or something like that? Like that was even a consideration, but if they want to put that on there, allow us to dump our stuff here to utilize. Okay, easy, just make sure we have insurance, great. So, we've got a very good relationship with Malta. We've had one for a while, and thanks to Roger for, leading the pack on that with us. And there was, I think, disappointment that we didn't get the full garage approach back when on certain people's parts. I understand they are pushing a higher conservation district approach right now in the town of Malta. The idea here is that a cold storage building would not be something that would violate that idea, especially where it's located. And, again, tell us the restrictions that will be conscientious on that, and we'll work on that idea.
This is essentially like a pole barn.
Basically, yeah, it is. Yep, with like 6 garage bays, which, allow for access and ability to, store vehicles and store plows and stuff like that. For those that don't understand the concept, again, is that we would go build that, hopefully this year, because it's a pretty simple building when you're looking at just the pole barn approach, and then move their operations per se into there for the time when we tear that one down and rebuild that in 27. That's the goal. But because we're doing all that work, we're going to need to do some combination of spending of our fund balance probably and take out loans to be advantageous. And Melissa and I were on a call with Andrew Watkins of Fiscal Advisors last week to just talk through with him, if this costs us $4 to $4.5 million, what's the best strategy? And one of the things I suggested was trying to take loans of $999,999 on that building and one on that building when it gets to that point, and spending $2 to $2.5 million of fund balance down so that we're not getting completely walloped with the interest. But on the flip side, there's a opportunity cost on the interest you would gain on that money in the bank too, so don't forget about that. But also the idea that you're already creating about half of your debt right there out of the $4.5 million projected debt we'll need to take on. There's basically half of it, more or less. So that means we need probably at least about $140,000, $150,000 a year cushion off the bat to not have to spend additional funding from our fund balance from beyond the $2 to $2.5 million. So that's why I'm suggesting we do need to do this year. Now, on the flip side, I'm aware that we need to begin to consider, as I said, the exemptions from Milton and the county. There's a much more aggressive seniors exemption. We do have an exemption baked into our code currently. It phases fully out at $24,000 of income, and you have to be 65 or older. Milton has a very revised version of that. You cannot use a schedule for that. It's baked into code, and every year you have to change those figures in the code with a local law. Don't ask. This confounds me why they would ever force this. Every year you have to pass a new law with a new schedule if you change the figures for the phase-outs. So we'll have to pass essentially 3 separate laws next year. But the question becomes, do we want to do it all at once, or do we want to do it on a ladder basis, because it will have a 3% implication on the tax rate for people that don't qualify for an exemption right off the bat, just staying at the normal tax rates here. So next year, we may not be, if we went the whole shot all at once, we may not be able to increase taxes at all fairly for the optics of it and the actual cost effect of what it'll do to, most people still as property owners in the village. So we've got to be cognizant of that change too, and that's why I'm saying this is a good opportunity this year to go for a 3% approach, because you may get a 0% approach next year toward capital planning, and then hopefully, future years we can return to normal approach to build up to that 275 figure. Again, we're at 100,000 after this year if we go the way I'm suggesting, and then the next steps hopefully get us up eventually to that $275,000 range, maybe over 3 additional years after the 0% year, let's say. So this is being done in a way, again, I've been trying to understand the Scotia situation, not to pick on them, but I'm looking at what they're doing over there. They're going to have $700,000 of ban principal and interest, bond anticipation notes that they're not taking out with long-term debt. And that's part of the problem that they're facing, and that's what we can't do. Okay, bans are good for when you're doing the building, and then you need to eventually take out that loan with the long-term debt. And even Liz is shaking her head yes on that one. I'm so happy about that. Yeah, but the principle is the idea that you use bans strategically, not permanently in those situations. And we need to make sure we are doing something that gives a very reasonable escalation to the taxpayer, who needs to know we're doing things with this money, that this money's being set aside for that purpose of the most visible problem I think we have in our village right now, DPW. This is something that affects everybody in terms of the employees. It hurts morale for them to work in that building the way it is. Paul, you took the tour. What's your thoughts on it?
The tannery looks like it's in about the same shape.
And that's not being utilized.
We were there with the new vac truck when it
That's
first
right.
came in, and it was pouring that day. And
Inside.
yes, inside, which is concerning.
There are more birds in the building than employees.
That probably sounds nice.
As long as they don't ask for benefits, I'm okay. No.
Family plans.
Yeah. But, that's going to be the most expensive but the most visible thing. Again, fire trucks are going to be handled with the town's money. I think they're going to have about $1 million of reserve set aside when the ladder truck finally does come in the 29-30 fiscal year, basically.
So that's not really part of this cap.
It's part of it in that we had to make sure we put some money up too. We're upping our share too a little bit, but it's not considerable. But just making sure that everybody understands that we've got money coming in that we can't throw at anything else. We're throwing it at trucks basically, that increased money. We're still trying to get grant money, like I said, for the pool floor, which is part of the capital plan. We get that pool floor money, then we've technically taken care of that. But these are all small items. It's really going to make or break on how we can get the pricing for the DPW situation managed. And then also this building, you and I were talking to Norbelt today about possible CDBG rolling funding that they do for underutilized buildings with ADA components built into it. This building needs an elevator to be fully utilized. I don't know if you've been to the upper floors. Have you been in there? We got to give you guys the full tour.
I was told we were not allowed to go up there.
I don't know who told you that. Oh, she's not. But
I didn't say anything.
But it's a nice building.
utilized.
It could be utilized. It needs, I think the $750,000 might be light, but it's an investment. And even if we didn't retain the building down the line, we would get the money back on something like this if we ever did sell it in that respect. But getting grant funding for it in the meantime would be really nice because we're not paying our own money for it. So we're exploring those types of ideas. As we see if we can get money from situations like those, or for some of the park funding for Kelly Park that Caitlin's going to be working on that grant again this year and making sure we get it in this time. We're going to have a chance to lower that 275 figure per year that we need, maybe to 250 or 240, something that maybe we end it earlier what's happening. Or if the tannery goes online and the tax implications are positive, netting us, especially sales tax differential and property taxes and water additional too, that may be the ability to cease that level of increase too. But again, until we see it, we can't plan on that. I can be hopeful that effect happens, but we don't know for sure until lines are signed and all that stuff.
Okay.
So why is he kind of person?
What's that?
Is it important?
I think it is. I see a note up there. I'm not sure what that is, but we've got the audio nonetheless, right? You're doing the Rebecca. Do you have the audio device you're using too? Okay, so we got that. No matter what.
So, okay, I think that's helpful information.
Sure.
To the public, because I'm
And
sure.
we'll be putting more of that out in the next week or
really
two.
have to, I think,
Yep.
educate people, because I think me included, it's just like, oh, okay, that is a little uncomfortable as far as, breaking the cap for, but I think if you articulate that there's going to be extensive effort to seek funding else, not solely relying on that. I mean, again, you can't count on it, but
I did this today and fed some of this information to the folks in Scotia that have concerns about their budget situation and explain. There was somebody that wrote a letter to Scotia that said doubling or tripling beyond tax cap automatically means fiscal mismanagement. And I disagree with that, and here's why. In a situation like ours, taking the town of Milton rate as the example, because that's the closest equalization rate to what Scotia has currently, we could raise property taxes only by a total of $60,000 this year on a $7.56 million budget. That's 0.8% basically of our budget. Okay, assume no other revenue increase because of whatever, sales tax flattens, water flattens for some reason, whatever. Then we only have 0.8% more to play with in an economy that has 3% inflation. And that's not probably something that you could operate with. And in a village like this, it doesn't have new buildings coming online with new assessed value coming online, new sales tax formula coming online because of it. It doesn't work that way easily. The fact that we were able to create a balanced budget for operational purposes is actually pretty impressive when you look at the grand scheme of what the limitations of property tax increases are inside the tax cap. So if you threw out the capital planning, we actually would be right at tax cap, end of story. The problem goes like this. We've got work to do, a lot of work to do, and a lot of money to spend, and only $5.5 million in the bank and A fund to do it. And it's not even in the bank per se, because the accounting bank shows it as $5.5 million. Getting the loans for USDA obviously help here. But next year we're going to have payments for USDA loans that are baked into this, thankfully. So even with those happening, we still balance this budget. The equipment loan covered, the pumper truck covered for first payments. So we collective, and Mariah helped too with the DPW meeting, we did a lot of work to make sure that we're not, as I think Anna said at one point, living beyond our means. We're not. We're actually being extraordinarily cautious with limited resources and staying at the tax cap for the purposes of operations, but also being cognizant that we have work to do on major projects that aren't operational per se. Those are things that are just capital planning needs down the line. But we're being very, very, very careful with that aspect of it, pricing things out, tossing back $7-8 million proposals from engineers saying, we told you this is what we can afford. Let's make sure it ends up there. And that's how the two-building approach got devised, because what we're proposing on Malta Avenue is a very inexpensive building comparatively to a full-on garage, but that means that garage doesn't have to be 14,000 square feet at the end of the day. It can be the 8,000 and 9,000 square feet and not have all the bells and whistles necessarily, because we've got some of the stuff offset by that facility. So that's what I want to underscore here is it isn't easy to balance a budget with tax cap anymore when we have low taxes compared to other municipalities. Scotia could raise their property taxes by probably $200,000 this year without affecting their tax cap. We only had $60,000 of room to do. That's a big difference, and they still are flying through their tax cap. So the letter writer was probably right in certain ways about fiscal management questions in Scotia. Here, look at what we have to play with at the end of the day, and look at what retirement benefits are doing, medical benefits are doing. Fix the 6 could be a real nightmare for us down the line because it affects a good chunk of our retirement, tier 6 employees. Stuff to be aware of down the line. The exemptions, as I said, have an effect. It's not found money or new money. It's just shifting tax burden is what exemptions do at the end of the day. So that's why I'm very proud of this, that we were able to hit 0 on the actual operational side of tax cap still.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody would disagree with the operational. I mean, looking at it, I don't really have any, just not disagreements type of questions, but just like, oh, where is it,
Mhm.
So I think...
Too many years of putting major projects on back burners is probably what the answer is
sure,
here.
I understand that. And again, it's that component of explaining, because first thing people hear is,
How many years did we argue about Wiswell Park, And finally we got it done.
Mm-hmm.
And now everybody's like, oh, God, what are you going to do with the other parks? And they're right. The other parks do need some TLC still. And let's do it. And the pool floor got punted for way too long. Eventually we got to bite that bullet here and make sure that thing stays, operational for us for a while. It's a lot of things that I look at and I'm like, how many years did we not buy new fire trucks? Mm-hmm. And then had to fight basically tooth and nail to get us into a position to get 2 of our most important trucks probably replaced at the end of the day. So I'm not trying to diss anybody that's gone before us. I think it's just, unfortunately, the climate is what it is, and it's been that way for more than a decade. Mm-hmm. And we finally said, especially when you and I took office, we've got a lot of things we need to do, and we promised people we'd do them. We never said it would be cheap, but we did say we'd be practical about it, and here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Charlene's like looking at me like...
You guys might have solved the COA issue, maybe. Do you have the worksheet? I don't.
Their worksheet?
Yeah.
Give me a moment.
Are you, I didn't interrupt you. Are you-
No. I was just, you meant arts committee. I was just...
Yep.
Yeah. Guess I could just call Mark's.
I'm trying to find... It's somewhere in here. This is what I scanned. So, there it is. Go ahead.
How much did you budget for the art fair? Or how much will,
3,000.
okay. They think they have 25. That's what they're working with.
Okay, so there's 500.
There you go.
Why don't you? We've got, obviously, we're not going to do it the next meeting, the
Right.
final. So for those that are new to the process too, Monday is nothing more than, Scotia did this a month and a half ago. Just an approval of the ability to exceed tax cap, nothing more. It doesn't mean we have to at the end of the month or not. So it is nothing more than allowance of the excess to occur. The final budget is what determines the final thing. As long as we've approved that, we can exceed it. If we don't, then we are locked into that 2% tax levy or 1.5% of actual tax rate situation, 0.8% that I told you about earlier. So we have time to make the final small changes to the budget. So get me the final figure. If you try to work them within the $13,700 figure, still, that's what it comes down to. What's going to happen is that the $2,500 in revenue that you see is going to get nudged down, and it'll create an imbalance on the expense side then. So I just need to know what to do with expenses.
I know, it's a small thing. I was looking at the 4250 numbers rolled over. You just rolled it into their entire budget, but
Yep.
I was thinking, oh.
That was for the
let's
Windows
just solve
tour.
this now, but-
The Windows tour and map was $1,250 the rollover. The Front Street Art Fair was $3,000. Again, things that they proposed again that just never got done prior.
So they are planning on doing those projects?
No,
still?
I don't think so. So I think we're set. I'll still do everything you're asking.
Find out for me what they want to do
Yeah.
then, and round me back to 13.7 if at all possible. I have no problem with the figure that we're aligning to them on this. It's just a question of let's just rebalance them properly, and I'll fix the numbers accordingly.
My reason for asking was like, I just want, if we're gonna commit this money, and it's fine, it's being rolled over, I wasn't gonna touch, but,
Thank you.
like achievable projects, you know?
Oh yeah, 100%. They're lower than the previous year for the reason of they can only achieve so much is their
Yeah.
feeling on it for sure. And actually, it's figure out what the shortfall is on the grant, and then just figure out where you're finding that money in terms of the allocations. So we actually will take their expenditure number down by the same amount the revenue number is going down for that grant. So if it's 1,000, knock out 1,000 somewhere on these categories with them.
The window door.
It could be, yeah, yep.
And then the timeline for the next meeting,
Is the
tax cap.
we will pass a motion setting a public hearing for the 27th for the budget itself. And then, assuming we're going to move forward with the budget, there will be a vote on the 27th to approve the budget. Paul, what do you got for me?
I don't really have any questions now. I'm going to ask them when they ask.
You stole his questions. You question stealer.
What was the question? I'm curious.
Capital plan.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a feeling that he had some thoughts on that. So, and again, I think you most probably can appreciate that DPW building and what the guys are saying, giving feedback wise on their general morale with respect to that thing. We got to do it. Even Anna said that to me this weekend.
Yeah, no, I don't
Yeah.
think anybody disagrees with that. I mean,
I just don't want to see no movement on it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
If we're going to go ahead and do this, let's.
Yeah. I pushed Carla today. I'm like, hey, have you heard back from Steve Gottman? She's working on that. And like I said, we just have to figure out what the minutiae is. Do we have to still go for the variance? And it's a de facto variance because of the contract we do with them. Do we just go for a permit? How does that mechanism work with respect to something like this? So we're figuring that out.
would the permit have to be renewed? Like, seek renewal on that?
I'm not
Rather than
sure.
just get a variance, which then is done?
Well, I think technically, again, because of the nature of village-owned government use building, we de facto have the right without needing the renewal. But again, we'll play good neighbor here. Yep.
Yeah.
Do you run into any flood zone issues over there?
I know what you're talking about, and I was looking at it this week after the rain and everything. It's higher on that side of it, so you may run into a little bit of issue on the driveway leading up to it, but I don't think we've ever gotten washed out there because it is higher as you go up that. It's when you see the gate open, if you're ever in that direction, us, not a general public folks, but you take your car in there and see what's there. Yeah, there is, and you'll see kind of the terrain and everything else there. If Malta Avenue isn't washing out, then that ain't washing out. I'll put it that way to you. And if Malta Avenue was washing out, I'm sure that I would be there in about 5 minutes to help mitigate that situation because it's a little close call here and there on that, I think, in the past. Mary?
I know nobody wants taxes to go up, and I mean, what in here in your summary is not important. Everything is very important. And done. They need to be done. I think you did a great job with your budgeting. The summary explains everything very well. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Take it seriously. We really do. And, the process that she helps me administrate, especially when I was away. She was getting that ready.
You're welcome.
And, you know, she's taking on additional responsibilities too, so there's a slight increase for her because she's lost kind of her right hand, you know, at least most of the time now, because Rebecca now focuses on the clerk end of things, but she's still helping out, obviously, as deputy treasurer where she can, but, you know, she's getting bombarded with clerk stuff for sure. So Melissa's picking up a lot more. You know, again, not to hone in on things, but Scotia village clerk/treasurer, $114,000 a year, plus a possible $5,000 for being the clerk to the board each year. So possibly up to $120,000 for the treasurer clerk there.
So, can I get her?
No, that's Schenectady County. Yeah, so,
Gotcha.
but it gives you a real course in education of the pay structures in these areas. You know, there's, as Scott said, for DPW workers who were having this conversation today, there's a melee going on between the towns and the village right now for getting guys on because there's just such a scarcity of people that want to be DPW workers right now. And our BOCES student that came on, great guy, and working out for us a few days a week for all intents and purposes. So thanks for helping us get that going. But you know, we did gain one employee from that process a couple summers ago, and so it's good to see that maybe that's the pathway to it. But these towns and villages are just all going after the same people right now, and it's getting uncomfortable in that respect. Jason Miller one day tells me he's got everybody, you know, count-wise that he needs, and then a week later, hey, I lost 2 people last week.
James.
I mean, there's the realities of it.
Yeah.
So,
It's not easy work either.
nope.
All right. I guess if we have other questions, we can start a dialogue about it.
Yeah.
With Ben, Melissa, and you. Oh, good.
Remember, her pay increase goes June 1st, okay?
I'll answer you on June 1st. Oh, you're funny.
Mariah, what was your takeaway from the process? Because you did get to see it personally. I'm curious what your takeaway so far is.
Today I have 12 questions that I'll review with Jen next time I see her.
You can review them with me too, so I'll participate in that for you.
But like I said last time, it's been very informative.
What did you learn the most from it, or what was your main takeaway? I'm curious.
Well, DPW kind of, the meeting we had with them was a good preface to this, but not everything gets passed in the budget. There is a lot of no's that don't necessarily reflect in the proposal, so that's interesting.
When they come in, they come with the general wish list, and then when you say no to a $350,000 dump truck, you know, where would you put that dump truck anyway? So am I going to sit there and request it and chunk out the truck in different places, or are we going to just sit there, figure out what their number is supposed to look like at the end of the day, and just work off that? And that's what we did. That's my approach on it, because they're not budgeting folks. They don't want to be filling out what their 401, 402, 403s look like and all that stuff. And I'm working with Jen now to get her more versed on it so that she can do more or less what the library did for us on their CE lines. But it's just, you know, what Anna said at the last meeting is not accurate. We said no multiple times to DPW on various things. Or you already budgeted for it for 26, so why are you asking for it again? Go spend it. You're supposed to spend it this year. Go do it.
There's a lot of that.
Yep.
But I think the comments, especially on this, are very helpful for me because I did not sit in on all the other meetings, so it's nice to see the breakdown of where everything goes, because not everything is common sense.
I'm with you. It's not as a parent when you look at the official, what the budget is, and you're like, what the heck does this mean? Mm-hmm. It's good to have a breakdown. So.
Liz is going to call you, come across the street, and, you know, give her some more of the information probably. Just want you to know.
You guys are neighbors?
Yep. down the street,
Yeah,
right?
I'm probably the one with the really annoying dad that's always running machines and his dirt bike and lawnmower. And
He's a nice guy, Liz.
All right.
Otherwise, gotta get a motion to adjourn at 8:35 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Fandesa, Trustee Price Bush, discussion, all in favor? And I will end the meeting now. Thank you very much.
Ask the question, how come you didn't try to get all the DPW over there if they're open to it? Is it because of environmental issues or?
Yeah, I think we're really restricted. I remember Malta
Because
was
it
not.
would make more sense if you could just.
Again,
Plenty
they're
of property over there. I have been over there.
Yeah,
when I
no,
wasn't
no.
trustee.
their concern is going to
Is that
be no, we're not off. And since we're still talking as a group, I'm going to keep it on. The realization there is that because of the increase of conservation approach generally, and some of it controversial, obviously, I saw Karen Avenir this thing about the last working farm thing in Malta, all that. Lifts, which are necessary for a full-on garage, are going to be probably a very controversial thing there. So again, when you look at this land here, that land is not going to be utilizable for much else but our DBW when it comes down to it. And so,
Could be a BOA type property where you could.
It could be.
but looking at the restrictions that BOA puts on some of these things too, I think we're in a position where you leave it where it is, you finally fix it up and make it look nice there inside a residential generalized zone. And that was a conversation I had with Norabelle a little bit today, is we've got a lot of properties, this one included, in at least a mixed residential zone, because it is. Our downtown is still a residential quasi-zone. And we have to be cognizant of how our buildings look inside that zone. And we're not doing a great job of it generally. Let's go and fix this one up, see how it goes here.
Just gonna fix it up?
No, fix up as and tear it down.
Oh,
New,
please.
Yes.
new construction.
Please, please.
No, new construction.
There was one idea possibly to tear down half of it, because half of it is actually a durable building, half of it isn't. But the thought is, if we're going to go the route we're going, we can tear down the entire thing and rebuild it and have a better go of it that way. So we've been looking at different ideas here, and again, trying to stay within financial confines respectfully. One of your foils, I think, was about getting the two proposals that were $7 to $8 million. And again, those proposals were never starters because we don't have $7 to $8 million to spend. So that's why I haven't really talked much about it beyond telling you we went back to the drawing board twice, and now with Don Rhodes and LaBerge, the drawing board is a lot more favorable for us based on a much more pared down process in attempt we're trying to do with DBW.
But if you're gonna move them over there temporarily, aren't you gonna have facilities?
We would have to go find a lift location for the time being for mechanic. That's the one thing we'd have to
But you're still gonna have to put in like, bathrooms and all that.
we'll figure this out. Don's working with us on that. Right now, we're just trying to get a yes on it without having to go through an Article 78.
I'm glad Malta's now willing, because they weren't when we asked.
Well,
It's different.
we're still working on it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a different administration.
Yeah, Cynthia and I had a conversation. I had a conversation with Steve about where the law falls right now. I then handed that off to Carla, because obviously I'm not the lawyer, but I want to have the first conversation with Steve about what was going to be coming down the pike. Out of respect, I've worked with Steve before on other matters related to water issues and whatnot with the village. So I've known well enough to have that conversation. He understood where I was going with it. He wanted us to talk with Roger. Roger talked with Scott.
Oh, I know how the process goes.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know.
I'm curious as to why you need FOIL requests for things that were rejected.
Well, let's just
That's another day, another discussion. Yeah,
Yes,
I
it's
just.
a non-meeting question.
Okay.
But anyway,
Have a pleasant evening.
you too.